And what I tend to do, I just open up with Spiral Track and do something else, switch, use this Hellhole, and everything dies. This class is way too broken. You don't even need skills for this. Hey yo, what is up guys, it's your boy Twi here. Today I will be talking about a build for Chaos Dungeons because I get a ridiculous amount of questions regarding everything that I use. So this will be covering engravings, runes, all of the skills that I use, and I will show a run as well. But before we start the video, if you guys like this kind of content and want to see some more of this, put it down into the comments, let me know what you guys would like to see, and if you haven't already, make sure to like and sub. Without further ado, let's get into the footage. So these are the stats that I'm working with. Generally I go for a crit main build and I take swiftness as a secondary stat. The swiftness comes from the necklace. Now you could be asking yourself like, okay, but why don't you take specialization? Because it increases the crit damage of your handguns and it increases all sorts of other kind of damage. Well, for one, I like the skill cooldown reductions on all of my skills way more, because if you cannot use any of your skills because they are on cooldown, you're lacking damage anyway. The same goes for the fact that you kind of want to have some attack and movement speed to position yourself better as well. As for the engraving that I went for, Peacemaker engraving gives you so much bonus stats and bonus damage that is incomparable to anything that you can get on a gunslinger. On a secondary basis, we went with adrenaline, and the reason why I do this is because you are whacking your keyboard for skills, which means that adrenaline is up 100% of the time and you have a great extra damage coming with it. The next one upon the list is Spirit Absorption, and it was a happy accident because it was rolled onto this thing. And truth be told, I didn't really think of this engraving that much once I started playing this, and I found out that this engraving is probably one of the most undervalued engravings that there are on the complete list. Reason why: you get attack and movement speed, which means that in terms of positioning you get more time to do damage. And this is not only good to do damage, but if you are a newer player and find yourself in hairy spots, difficult situations because you are using a skill where you should not be, guess what? This engraving will allow you with leniency toward making mistakes. If you have positional mistakes, guess what? This one will fix it for you. If you lock yourself into an attack animation, this one will partly fix that for you. So I gotta say, this is one of the best engravings that I could have gotten on my gunslinger, and probably all of the other classes that I play as well. But now let's talk skills. We got ourselves the Spiral Tracker, which will increase your critical rate because you get the critical resistance down on your enemies. Looking like this. And although it's a small AoE radius, it's very potent to kill yourself off these high-end enemies that definitely do take some damage to kill. Quick Step is a skill that will grant you a ridiculous amount of mobility if you just put 4 points in it and go for the second. And it basically looks like this. But for your first damaging skill, it is Equilibrium, and once again this lowers critical resistance of your enemies. Combine that with a 360 degree AoE radius and a 60% critical rate. This does a lot of damage to a wide area of enemies, looking like this. No explanation needed. Now the Peacemaker is a skill that is also used for mobility. Just 4 points in it, excellent mobility, gaining you a little bit of extra. Shotgun Rapid Fire is a skill to me that has a wide AoE radius, and you can spec it in certain ways where it does a ridiculous amount of damage. Normally it would have a insane cooldown of 36 seconds, but you can lower this as well. So let me just show you what it looks like. Very fast, very solid, and it does what it needs to do. So I went for a no longer performs a back attack. This increases the outgoing damage and gives you an extra critical rate in the process, which means that if you do perform this with a spiral charge, the chances of this skill having a critical rate become absolutely astronomical. Look at that. Okay, I'm a little bit disappointed. However, the one thing that I always take into consideration, I want to have skills that don't lock me into place that much or deal a ridiculous amount of damage in the process that will make sure that I don't get hit as well. So you could take the tight spot, but you could also take the combo or Rapid Fire, which increases the attack speed by a tad, which makes the skill look like this. It's fast, it's useful, it does what it needs to do. And for a last shot, knocking yourself back on the extended shot, it will make sure to get yourself out of hairy situations. The other thing that you can think about is get extra damage to push immune foes, and this is particularly good on those high named enemies that do a ridiculous amount of damage to you. However, I like the extended shot a little bit more because of the extra movement on the last hit. Now Sharpshooter is a skill that is a must have in everything on this build, and I will just show you first and then explain why. very simple, right? AoE damage, ridiculous. Wow, it's just a ridiculous range when it comes to it. This is your bread and butter when it comes to Gunslinger, and this is how you build it. AoE radius increase 360 degree, and I would particularly take the burn damage over the frost damage, because with the burn damage and the animation being pretty long, there will be a few burn stacks that will kill the enemies in the process. You could obviously take the freeze if you feel more comfortable with it, but with the outgoing damage and popping the skill just mainly once, this will probably decimate everything that's on the field anyway. Now coming up as some rifle skills, and perfect shot would be a bread and butter as well, but I use this in a very particular setup. You could say, Twer, why the hell are you not having any bleed damage? Well, for one, if you get stunned on a 30-second cooldown, you'll be salty as hell. So instead I take the stable stance, which allow you to stand firm. It doesn't matter whether enemies will try to stun you or do whatever, you will stand firm and clear your shot anyway. Get this one onto a extra critical rate on the very left precision shot, and a enhanced shot with the perfect zone increasing damage. It will look like this. So sad. Let's do it again for purpose and fail it. I said do it again. It's so good. It is so good, ladies and gentlemen. Next up on the list is the focus shot, and well, let's just see it first. And this skill has like very many setups that you could use for it. Once again, I want to have skills that don't lock me into place that long, because otherwise I will get hit. So the way that I came up with it was a quick aim, which decreases the aiming time, a double tap, because that way it only fires one bullet, and a quick finish with a confirmation kill process, because if I would do it for some AoE radius, then obviously you might say, oh my god, but Twed, this will hit more enemies. It also locks you into place, and if you look at it, this will still hit, but only on the last shot. That's great and all. Does it hit on this? I don't think so. Never mind, it actually hits a lot, but it doesn't even do that much damage. So this could obviously be a consideration depending on how you want this spec. Now once we have been going over all of those skills, there are several options that you can think about if you have more skill points than this. So if you have your target down, it is a skill that can really pick off enemies that are high priority targets, such as these big name monsters from far away. So if you take this one to an absolute maximum, and well, there's obviously the option to make the quick aim and put a semi-automatic rifle on it, hit the automatic damage for even further, but guess what? This itself already does quite a lot of damage, which could definitely pick off an enemy. However, if you want to use this for your small monsters, you can increase the scope a little bit and still get pretty decent range on the damage. However, I don't think it serves the purpose for big AoE damage. Same could be said for steady aim, which just increases the damage, but I tend to like the Heaven's Call just a little bit better. And the reason why I like this as well is this is a skill that does consistent damage and gets these enemies over the 50% marker. If you pop a last shot on top of it, guess what? The chances of you killing your enemies are quite likely. Instead, what I'd like to have is a last request, and the reason why I want this is because it does a ridiculous amount of damage, attack speed can be increased, and can get you in and out of situations very fast. So if you build this and you want to one-shot one of these high-end monsters, you could just say, and they're all dead. Now when it comes to runes, there are several things that I do, like take the overwhelm stagger damage on my sharpshooter. I take a chances of attack and movement speed on a skill that is one of the lowest cooldowns possible, which means that the chances of me popping the skill itself is really good. If you want to use this rune, however, on a character that has multiple presses on a single button, guess what? Put this thing on there and the chances of you proccing this thing are very likely, i.e. your striker. He has one of those skills. When it comes to the casting speed and the perfect shot, this takes a little bit of time to wind up. Get the casting down, you will be able to deal more damage getting less hit. Another overwhelm, stagger damage on my equilibrium, ridiculous amount of damage, and with the iron wall on the focus shot, it will allow me to receive less damage the moment I am standing still. This way you can still think about having all of your AoE instead of making the skill faster. And for the skill casting speed, making a bullet rain a little bit faster, dealing more damage over a short amount of time, I thought this was Probably one of the best things that I could do. Then there's another thing that I could do, and that is on Spiral Tracker, take a little bit of cooldown chance, which allows me to spam my skills more often if I do get lucky, and especially on skills that only have 8 or less seconds cooldown, you can spam this to Kingdom Come. Another interesting thing is the status bleed, because this doesn't signify any base damage, for what I've been told, which means that this kills off of the enemy's HP, which is quite nice. And the reason why this is very good is because you can pop this also on a 6-second cooldown, which would be your A2 grenade. You can simply pop this, doesn't even take that long to cast, and you will be able to abuse this at the best angles. But now that we have talked about the skills, let's do a run with the build, shall we? So here we go, watch the show. There are a few things that you want to keep in mind. That once you start running around is where everything starts. These little blue orbs can give you movement speed, which are very nice. And what I tend to do, I just open up with Spiral Track and do something else. Switch, use this hellhole, and everything dies. This class is way too broken. You don't even need skills for this. Run around once again, have some fun with it. Place everything, place your equilibrium, everything dies once again. Now this is about one of the interesting things that you can do with it. Put the buckshots down, and there you go. Oh, last one, putting you down in a very good situation. It's just so good. Obviously, with a little bit more AoE, it could have hit a lot of other enemies, but was it really necessary? No need. With the suppression fire on rapid shot, I can just stand everywhere, and for what it seems, I barely got shot anyhow. So here's where we kill Nasty everything, and we can simply wait, and go up to the next map. So technically, I didn't have to get hit at all. Okay, waiting for the servers to come up because EU suddenly gets like mesmerized about what content I'm playing. And once I start walking, once again is where the enemies start spawning. Now, due to my high mobility skills and switching down to my Peacemaker once again, I can travel left, right, and center super fast, clogging all the enemies once again. And the chances of them hitting me are absolutely abysmal. Switch once again, use all of my skills, pop down this thing, and then shoot everybody right into the face. And this is what I meant, that you don't necessarily need the AoE damage, because it is already doing what it should do. Suppression fire on everybody's face, put down the hellhole, and here we go. Sit back, relax, let the gunslinger do everything for you. And maybe I should just stop talking a little bit less. If you'd like me to stop a little bit talking, let's put something down into the comments, let me know, because I tend to go a little bit overboard when it comes to this jazz. And now we do perfect shot for the first time. Ew, killing everybody in the process. This is beautiful. Get out of that one. I don't want to get hit by that. Suppression fire and hellhole once again. And then we want to do spiral on that one. Hit it a little bit because that slime is nasty. Perfect shot. Yoink. And how can I get interrupted? But like I said, if I stand into place for way too long, it's also the moment where I have the most chances to get killed. So you rather want to have to run around, because that little standstill I did there, that is 30% of your health. I'm gonna try and do this at least once without using any potions. Chances of me dying are quite high because I end up messing up somewhere always, which is crazy. But let's switch from weapons, hitting my Peacemaker engraving, which is really good for the attack speed, which in turn grants me more mobility, and then use the rest accordingly as well. Hi, bye. It hits everybody. It is so beautiful. If all of your things are not dead, yo, I should be making a Billy Mays commercial. Holy hell, everything is dead. Oh man, this is crazy. So yeah, if you're not done yet and you think that you have more things that you can do, wipe that shit up. Now, using your equilibrium right here, saving up your other sharpshooting things is probably the best thing that you can do. Wait a little bit, walk around like a tourist, and then sightsee a little bit. Decide to say, I want everything dead, and well, I did so in the process. Stand over here, perfect shot. Well, we're not clogging the enemies just yet, so that was unoptimized if you ask me. And with some suppression fire, we are once again killing everything. It's so nasty. It is so good. Now we got a heavy enemy. No problem. I missed it. Oh no, there wasn't a heavy hit. It doesn't matter. There will be another one spawning. I want to see if I can one shot with that skill. So we gotta wait for 9 seconds. I'm just gonna shoot him like this. Missed that on a crit. That is pretty bad. But 140k, we can assume that if we hit over 300,000, that we will be able to one-shot it. You seen it here live. Okay, let's enough of this insubordination. Here we go once again. Can we end the run already? Because this was shameful. How much damage does this do? 330k damage. I would like that, but it does require a little bit of skill of timing where I just horribly fail. Somebody come and call my mama, man. They mean to me. And then we end up putting a shotgun to somebody's face, which is probably the best option that you have in life if you are facing hardships. But this is how Gunslinger can be played on Chaos Gate. If you guys enjoyed this, put it down into the comments. Let me know. If you have any other additions, make sure to pop it there as well. But for now, this is Twibby. Peace.